Lopez's aunt said her niece spent a lot of time on Honduras' northern coast. She says Lopez often visited a healing village which practices a form of African herbal medicine. The so-called Usher Herbal Research Institute is run by Dr. Sebi. We caught up with him today in Los Angeles. He says Lopez came to him asking for help.
She was stressed, past experiences she told me about. I said, we have had people that were schizophrenic, paranoia, and insane, completely insane for 11 years. And they recovered. So I can't see why we can't help you. So she said, okay. Then after a while, I saw Lisa laughing and playing and joking. She was cooking for me. She cooked for everyone. And it was fun because sometime at the village she would cook. People love her cooking because she was good. And she was also good in extending her love to people. That was never a problem with Lisa.
Dr. Sebi was so inspired that he was in the process of building a home near the retreat. Well, we'll have more on this story later in our show. In just 15 minutes, we'll have a recent interview with Lisa Lopez in which she talks about her life and her career.
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Radon at TTM Academy, and we're going to be talking about health today. All right, so health. All right, now I usually don't talk about health, but if you notice, I've been taking a lot of walks recently, doing a lot of lectures while I'm walking. Hitting two birds with the same stone. You know what I'm saying? So basically, it's been 2 years since I was sick. Knock on wood. Knock, knock. But and this has all been on the Dr. Sebi diet. So we're going to talk about alkalinity today. And, for me, it's kind of weird, seeing, just my friends and family, seeing people get sick all the time, people getting sick 5 times a year, you know what I'm saying, 10 people getting sick every other month. I know a lot of people that are always sick. In my childhood, I didn't grow up vegan. I grew up eating McDonald's and Wendy's and stuff like that. And my whole childhood, my nostril, I always had one nostril closed. I always dealt with, congested sinuses, had asthma, all types of stuff, as a kid. And then it wasn't until, let me go back for a second. In 96 is when I stopped eating beef. I stopped eating beef in 96. And the last time I had beef, I remember I had already stopped eating it, and then in 96, maybe later that year, 96, I was teaching at the Mayor's House program when I was in high school. I was doing like some after-school, peer leadership type of thing. I don't use the word mentor because of the sexual connotation of that original word. I never use that word, so I'll say peer leader. I was a peer leader. And these kids made me some pasta with ground beef on it, and that was the year that I had stopped eating ground beef. But I was like, okay, whatever. These kids made it for me, and I don't want to be rude in front of them and not eat it. So that was 96, the last time I ate ground beef, right? And then about that same year, that was when I stopped eating fast food. So everybody that's just coming in, I'm celebrating going 2 years without being sick. This is the longest I've ever gone. I've gotten to 1.5 years before on the Dr. Sebi diet, the alkaline electric diet. You know what I'm saying? The diet for Homo sapiens. But, so it's been 2 years since I was sick. And so I'm celebrating that. But so I'm just giving you a quick history of how I became vegetarian and then eventually vegan and then eventually alkaline vegan. Right? So, my family, obesity is a very, very big thing in my family. Most of the women in my family have died from, complications due to obesity. And, so it was always a big thing for me when I was a kid. People would be like, yeah, you're going to get big just like us. And I was like, no, I'm not. I used to say that as a kid, I remember, and they would try to joke with me. So in 96, I stopped eating beef and pork. And I stopped eating fast food at the same time. I remember the meal, too. I remember, I think I was at Burger King, and I believe, I think it was like a bacon double cheeseburger, and then maybe 6-piece. At McDonald's, I used to get 6-piece chicken McNuggets, but I think at Burger King, I used to get the chicken fingers. That's right, because they don't have chicken nuggets. So yeah, I had chicken fingers, and I used to put the honey on it. I used to ask for the extra honey. So I used to put honey and barbecue sauce on my chicken fingers, and the double, or the bacon cheeseburger. I'm not sure if it was double, because I know McDonald's has that. Everybody doesn't have that. So that was the last meal that I had. That was the last time I had fast food. Now, over the past, 25 years from then, I've had, I've eaten a couple of French fries before from people. Somebody's like, hey, and I'm sure those French fries probably have God knows what in it. But let's pass all this construction first. But I'll just talk a little bit louder. So yeah, so the reason in '96 why I first stopped eating the pork and the beef in '96, when I was in high school, I was like 17, going to the Paideia school, and I was, into sports. Let's wait till this passes. All right, we're past all that. So yeah. All right, so yeah, we're past all that now. So yeah, so the main reason I stopped eating beef and pork in '96 was more because I was trying to excel in sports. It wasn't even about, protecting the animals or spiritual levels or, things like that. I was just, trying to get more healthy. I knew meat wasn't healthy. And I knew that there was a lot of propaganda out there telling us, meat's healthy, and all the fake 4 food groups and all that stuff that they taught us was all fake. It's like, oh, you need milk, you need some pork in your life, So I stopped eating that, beef and pork. And, at that point, I was playing, I had formerly been playing a lot of soccer and basketball, but then I got a soccer injury. I had my, I think my LCL got torn, ligament on my knee and my meniscus. A Eurocast guy, the ball wasn't even there, and he just came at me and swiped my leg and tore my knee, So I think I was like recuperating a lot and trying to recover, trying to get back into being able to play sports again. And I think when I stopped eating the beef and the pork, shout out to Steve Segur, rest in peace. I was making beats on Steve Segur's, he had like a Casio or some type of Yamaha keyboard that could that had a sequencer in it that you could actually program beats, And when I stopped eating birds, pork, and beef, sometimes I would still get sick like normal people a couple times a year. Also getting, what else? And pizza. Cheese pizza. I was still eating cheese pizza and tuna sandwiches. And I was like, okay, I got to kick that. I want to kick it. And, so in 2007, I was walking with my ex at the time, this DJ, Lottie Dottie, who actually ended up leaving me, or actually no, I left her because I found out she had a sugar daddy. And then a month later, she started hooking up with, Terrence Tesora, Tess, from Lex Records, who I was his DJ, And, I had forgiven him, but, and I was more mad at her at the time. But yeah, so this was when I was still with her, right? This was 2007. I was walking around the street. It was an Afro-Punk festival. Actually, they filmed me. Shout out to Aiko. She took a picture of me that ended up being in a Japanese magazine. Maybe it was Woofin. I think it was Woofin magazine, right? And it was that same day. I'll show a picture of that Afro-Punk thing. But that same day, I was walking with her, and she was eating some chicken, right, with my ex. And my homie Divine Elohim, I ran into him. This was at a Brooklyn block party that Afro-Punk was throwing. This is before Afro-Punk really blew up, and it was, at the park by the Navy Yard. This was when it was just still, small venues and a street blocked off here and there. It was much smaller, right? And, you know, he was looking at her crazy eating the chicken. Like, he just gave her this look like she was, you know, like she was totally, like, animalistic or something. You know what I'm saying? The way he looked at her, he just gave her this, like, weird look. Like, he looked at me, you know, he looked at her, and he gave just kind of like a tisk kind of, you know, he gave a frown. And, you know, it kind of resonated in the back of my head, but then it wasn't until I was doing some mixing for him, you know, shout out to Divine Elohim again. I was doing some mixing for him. He had this song called like Word, Sound, Power. I believe it was like Power. You know, he's a dope poet, right? Yeah, I was doing some mixing for him in the future. I mean, in the studio, and he had this song where he was talking about. He said he was like the active ingredient or something about milk being mostly pus. And I never thought about that, you know. I had cognitive dissonance, you know. To me, the vegan versus meat eater issue is more of a cognitive dissonance thing. Like, hey, I love dogs, I love animals, but yet I have to feed my dog animals to survive. So it's a, you know, a conundrum, you know, for a lot of people with cognitive dissonance, you know. So for me, I feel like I was dealing with cognitive dissonance at that point. And I was like, I never thought about it like that. I never thought, yeah, milk is definitely pus and blood and enzymes and, you know, white blood cells, some red blood cells, plus proteins and all different types of things. But it's like, yeah, it's literally drinking, you know, pus. You know what I'm saying? There's pus in milk. Now, normally, if you saw pus oozing out of somebody's nipple or, you know, out of a wound or a scrape, you know, all my life I was, you know, skateboarder and stuff. So, you know, I would scrape my knees up, and I remember, and then maybe I looked it up on the net, and to see what percentage, you know, milk is pus. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it's not all pus, but there's obviously pus in it, especially since, you know, they're constantly forcing the cows to constantly give milk. So then their udders tend to be very infected. You know, they have infected udders, and what happens is, you know, there's going to be a lot more pus than a cow. There's going to be a lot more pus content in factory farm cows than if somebody just has, you know, their friendly cow that they milk every now and then for their family in a small situation, right? So the pus is going to be way higher levels, right? So I was like, so that totally changed my view right there. And I was like, after that I never had cheese again after hearing his song. You know, I might have had something where somebody slipped something in, you know, slipped some cheese in. Once I was at a Dante fried chicken party. That block party actually that I went to, the Afropunk, I think it was also a collaboration with Dante and Afropunk maybe, because I think there might have been Dante chicken there. But and shout out to Dante Fried Chicken. I believe he's in Cali now. But yeah, so it really changed my life, that one song, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, art can be powerful, you know. A lot of people feel that, you know, people can't change others' lives through art, but, you know what I'm saying, one painting, one picture, as they say, a picture can say 1,000 words, one picture, even one phrase, and that one phrase resonated in my head about the pus and the milk. So I was like, no. And I stopped eating pizza. And right when I stopped eating pizza, when I stopped eating cheese and dairy and the tuna as well, I stopped eating fish at that point in 2007. Right when I did that, my nose cleared up. My whole life, I never knew what it was like to have, you know, two clear nostrils. You know what I'm saying? Be able to be like. And I think that, you know, as a kid, I always had problems running because I was probably breathing through my mouth. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, because I was probably unable to fully breathe through my nose because I was always dealing with, you know, some type of congestion. You know what I'm saying? Because the food I was eating, you know, wasn't meant for Homo sapiens like myself with the, you know, L1 haplogroup. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, as far as Homo sapiens, the diet was, you know, totally plant-based, you know what I'm saying? And as far as Homo neanderthalis, they were the opposite. Their diet was 100% meat, you know what I'm saying? And cannibal too. They were also cannibals, and the only time they really got some vegetables, Neanderthals got vegetables in their diet, were when they were eating the stomach of an animal. You know, so let's say they killed a bear or a gazelle or whatever, you know, and they're eating the animal. Maybe they start eating the stomach, and the stomach and intestine still has food in it. So that's, you know, that's one of the only times they would find Neanderthals with, you know, vegetables in their diet. Even though they had teeth that were very similar to us, they didn't have, you know, the canine teeth. They found through their teeth that their diet was 100% meat. But, you know, there were some Neanderthals in pockets, in maybe like in Spain, where there was just really, really fertile, and there was a lot of vegetables, and some of them were eating vegetables just because there was just so many vegetables everywhere. You know. But as far as me being L1 haplogroup, you know, the original Eve mitochondria, Eve is L, she's the original L, and us L1s, you know, came from Eve with no Neanderthalis mixture in our mitochondria, right? So I got a pure mitochondria, and so my pure mitochondria was, you know, not feeling my diet for my whole life until all the way until 2007 when I stopped eating the dairy. So then it's like, oh, my nose cleared up. I felt like a new person. And then I started getting sick less, but I would still get sick when I was vegan, you know, as a vegan. So from 2007 to now, I've been vegan. But from 2007 to like maybe 2012, you know, I would still get sick a couple times a year. And I noticed a lot of times when I would get sick, it would be after I ate like a bunch of like tortilla chips and the salsa, you know, that, you know, the acidic tomatoes, you know, just sitting in those jars with all the preservatives. You know, I remember it would, you know, start with like a sore throat, and then it would spread, you know, the culture, you know, the acid culture that's in those things, that stuff spreads. So I remember, you know, the salsas would get me, even, you know, eating pasta sauce. I was making, you know, a lot of pasta at that point. So the, you know, pasta sauce could, you know, start a sickness. So I would still get sick a couple times a year, right? And, you know, and then I had gotten sick, and I was watching, you know, YouTube. I was, you know, studying Sebi and Dr. Sebi. This is the first 2 years where I haven't been sick for 2 years. Like, I haven't been able to retain mucus. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might have a booger or two, or maybe I, you know, blow my nose out in the morning, but then, you know, it's all gone. You know, like, I've never been able to retain mucus because I have my diet is, you know, pretty much alkaline diet as much as I can. Obviously, you go to the grocery store and cause inflammation in your body. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, if you just ate some glue, obviously it's not good for you. You know what I'm saying? You don't want your little capillaries being glued together, you know? You don't want stagnant oatmeal gluing. I've heard pasta does that too as well. But, you know, and then there's rice. You know, a lot of the grocery stores either rice or just, you know, fillers, soy, things like that these companies are making, right? And most of it's just wheat. You know, even if you could buy rye bread now, you can't even find pure rye bread in the grocery stores anymore. The pure rye bread is going to be like, you know, cut with wheat. It'll be like mostly wheat as the first ingredient, and then maybe like they'll just drop a splash of rye in, and then they'll like add like some dye or chocolate in or whatever to make it brown. You know what I'm saying? The rye bread's not even rye anymore, you know? So, you know, my preferred bread is spelt bread or rye bread, pure rye bread, you know. But yeah, on the alkaline diet, I literally, you know, it's very, very difficult for me to hold mucus, you know. And mucus, like Sebi was saying, mucus is the cause of most illnesses, you know. Mucus is like the conduit for all different types of illnesses. You know, most illnesses, if you're sick, you probably have some mucus going on. Now, in the past 2 years, I've had a few neck aches, you know, from like sitting at a weird angle and things like that, you know, a couple of body aches, but I haven't actually gotten sick where I'm like sneezing and mucus and sick, you know what I'm saying? The last time that happened was March of hey, I'm doing a lecture. Okay, hey, I'm doing a lecture. All right, let me stop this lecture. All right, here's part 2 of the lecture. All right. Shout out to my wife. I had to give my wife some keys. But So yeah, this was 2012. I stopped eating acidic food. So, like some of my favorite foods at the time, like corn and peas and things like that. You know what I'm saying? I stopped eating that, right? I still eat it now from time to time, but when I go to the grocery store, I try to buy alkaline things. So I'll show, the Dr. Sebi food list. So, that's like cucumbers, squashes, all the squashes, all the salads except like iceberg, which has like, no nutritional value, and like, maybe, like arugula and a lot of those other things are really, really good, really healthy as far as like the more spicy kind of leafy greens and things like that. And then all the mushrooms except shiitake. Shiitake is actually a kind of acidic. It's one of the few mushrooms that's like very acidic. And notice that's what people that are like, meat eaters, or when they try to make a lot of vegan meals and they try to, a lot of times it'll always be like shiitake. They'll ask for shiitake in it, in the recipe. And, shiitake is, acidic because it has that, very acidy taste that people like. People like that acid taste, People grow up on it. I grew up on the acid taste of meat, So, so in 2012, it just totally changed, where instead of getting sick like 4 times a year, a couple times a year, like 2 to 4 times a year, it turned to be like I would only get sick like once a year, So I only started being sick once a year for years. And then I hit like a year and a half before, you know what I'm saying? It might have been a year and a half when COVID hit, This time 2 years ago, there was only 6 cases in New York, 6 cases of COVID in New York. And that was when I was escaping New York. Me and my wife, we escaped New York, right when there was only 6 cases. I think it was like on the 6th of March, 6th of March 2020. There was only 6 cases in New York. At that point, it was just in the, there was I believe, maybe in the Bronx, like Yonkers. It was in the north of New York, and it was at a yeshiva, right? That was when there was only, that first outbreak at that yeshiva that spread all over the world, all over the country, as far as the U.S. Because remember, before that, it was just diplomats, like Iranian diplomats, and it started, Iranian diplomats and affluent people in North Italy. That was where the outbreak first started, after it left Wuhan, after it left China, So, we escaped New York, but I believe my wife had gotten sick, in New York, hanging out with her friends, and I was like, hey, you shouldn't hang out with them, there's a pandemic. People didn't believe me, she didn't believe me. I was like, hey, it's a pandemic, it's about to spread around the world. I was telling people this in January, because I had a lot of Chinese students, I had students that were in Wuhan, so I knew from the start what was happening, even in, December and January, all that stuff. So she got sick and then I got sick. I don't know what it was, but that was March of, the early March in 2020. And since then, I haven't been sick, knock on wood. Since then, so it's been 2 years. So now my next goal is 2.5 years. I'm looking to make it, 6 months from now, when September hits, early September, that'll be 2.5 years. That's my next goal of and you see me, working out more, becoming a dad. I was starting to put on a dad belly. So, I've been a lot more active, doing a lot more physical activity, But yeah, so the alkaline diet's a real thing, Even my ex, when I first started being on the alkaline diet, my ex-fiance started getting on the diet, and she was similar to me, where she had dealt with sinus problems her whole life, and they just all went away. She literally had a snotty nose her whole life, and boom, it all went away. It's because of the food. It's all science. Everything you put in your body, just like when you do the science experiments with, the volcanoes at school, and they take the baking soda, and they pour the vinegar in the baking soda, and it makes a volcano. So it's like you're drinking Coca-Cola, that's acid. You can the Coca-Cola in my house, I use that generally for, cleaning off the battery on the car. You know what I'm saying? It's a good cleaner for the corrosion in a car battery. You know what I'm saying? It's a cleaner. It's not a drink, But through, colonialism and, just like Jebu said, colonialism and hypnotism, leaves most of us dead or in prison. The dead part's a lot of times from the food. It's not even from the violence. So it's like, I'm always talking about the gang violence, but, there's food deserts all over the country in black communities. And, it's just really messed up. Like even in Atlanta, you go to the North Atlanta, Smyrna, Cobb, all those places, everything's all developed and, there's all types of food options. And then if you're in Southwest, there's it's just vast food deserts. The whole southern Atlanta is vast food deserts. You literally have to go to Euro diaspora neighborhoods to be able to have all different types of choices besides chicken and fast food. Because where I'm walking right now, if I want to get something to eat and walk there, it's all just chicken and fast food, McDonald's, Wendy's, Checkers, whatever, chicken, what I'm saying? Most Chinese food places in black communities, they're just selling chicken to everybody, what I'm saying? Everybody's just eating mad chicken. And chicken has been, known to cause fibroids, what I'm saying? There's a high correlation with chicken and fibroids, just like there's high correlation with meat and red meat and prostate cancer, colon cancer, all these things, what I'm saying? And it's also important to note too that I believe it was Bush, the second Bush, I believe George Bush, the second Bush, George W. Bush, he made it legal. He made it legal for tumors to be in food again. I'm pretty sure it was him that did that, because at a certain point, the FDA was like, if the turkey has a giant tumor on it, they got to cut the tumor off and throw it away. But I believe they changed that law to where they could just be like, hey, this turkey's got a giant tumor on it. Hey, that's going to make the turkey even heavier, and that's more products for us. We can just turn that tumor into a hot dog. Let's make a hot dog out of tumors. So it's like if you're literally eating tumors, you can't be surprised if a tumor develops. You know what I'm saying? Because that's part of, one of the axioms of nature, as far as things, mimicking the things that came before it, and being affected by them, So, I would recommend, if you're going through any health problems, to one, try going vegan, and also two, try going alkaline vegan. I'll put the Dr. Sebi food list up. But yeah, it's an amazing diet. I'll name some more vegetables that I eat. It's just black rice, wild rice. Rice has arsenic in it. And you also gotta, if y'all want to be vegan too, you also gotta be careful of all these new cheeses. Because, people have known that soy is unhealthy because that's just been animal feed that they've been feeding for generations. So when vegetarianism and veganism first started popping off, people started using a lot of soy for the cheese, like soy cheese pizzas and stuff. And, that kind of phased out because, people know that soy is bad for you, and even in men, it's, throwing off their hormonal balance as far as, just a lot of estrogen in soy, So what they're doing now is they're on cheese pizza. They're making this thing. What do you call it? Tapioca. They're using tapioca cheese. And if you look up tapioca, this Sebi put me onto it. He was, cassava. Tapioca is derived from cassava. Cassava, sometimes they have to recall cassava because it poisons people. Cassava has cyanide in it, just like rice has arsenic in it. And apple seeds have arsenic in it. Apples are great though. I eat a lot of apples. Applesauce. Really into applesauce. Because it's like if a baby can't eat it, why should we be eating it? So pretty much I eat the things that babies can eat. You know what I'm saying? Right? It's like if babies can't eat something. If a baby can eat applesauce, that's what we should be eating, right? But and that kind of goes to Sebi's whole approach, his heuristic method. For those that don't know what a heuristic method means, is a heuristic method is when you do something without, going to school for it, when you do something totally on your own experience. So his whole theory, he never read any books, so he decolonialized himself. You know, because he was sick himself in his like 30s, I believe. You know, he was bald and he was impotent, he said, and he had heart problems and he was overweight. And he went to a Mexican shaman, and the shaman told him to just fast and starve it out. All these conditions he was dealing with, he was like pre-diabetes and all that stuff, and he, you know, that's when he fasted and healed himself of that particular sickness he was dealing with. And then he started healing others. He you know, left his job as a mechanic. He was a mechanic working for a hospital. And, you know, it's important to know that he never read a book in his life. Like I was saying, he did everything in a heuristic method. And so, you know, you're going to say, oh, well, how did the hospital hire him if he had no experience? They hired him as you know, as an engineer, more like a, you know, kind of maintenance man engineer for some of their boiler room stuff and stuff like that. And I guess maybe he lied on his application or whatever. He told them that he could do it, even though he had never done it before. Man, he was able to do it, you know. You know, he was able to figure out, and through being the engineer at a hospital, like maintaining the boiler systems and different things like that, he learned about viscosity and alkalinity, and, you know, what makes batteries work, what makes, you know, plumbing work, what makes all these different things work. And, you know, humans, we're electrical beings. You know what I'm saying? We're basically made out of light wrapped in magnetism. You know what I'm saying? Light's the ether, and magnetism, it gives us form. What, you know, gives certain things in us form, you know. So you know, Sebi was able to have no knowledge as I gotta go the other way. Sebi was actually able to have no knowledge as a you know, mechanic for a hospital, and was able to excel. And then he left that and went into his own practice to heal people. You know, he saw what was going on in hospitals and just people sitting in there. You go into hospitals now, and, you know, they're feeding people all types of acid food. You know what I'm saying? But acid, what it does is, you know, no matter what type of acid, whether it's food or whatever, acid burns, acid destroys. And what we brush our teeth with is toothpaste, which is not acid, it's alkaline. You know, one of the most alkaline foods are actually like cucumbers. That's why, you know, like with Indian food and real spicy foods and things that can be really acidic, you know, a lot of times people in cultures, they'll have something to balance it off, you know. So the cucumbers, you know, balance off the hotness and the spiciness, you know. So it's very, very, you know, freeing thing to not have to deal with sickness a lot. You know what I'm saying? And in these times and in this whole pandemic, you know, having been lucky enough to have gone, you know, 2 years without getting sick, you know, that's an amazing accomplishment. So I'm, you know, celebrating it, you know, privately with family and friends, and with y'all right here. But that's why I'm you know, dropping the history of what brought me to that point. You know, because it's very, very important to stay healthy, and especially as an artist. You know, a lot of us artists, you know, we're trying to save money on like art supplies or something, and, you know, so somebody will just you know, eat something real unhealthy. And you know, I remember reading Anthony Braxton's book. I remember reading, definitely check this book out, called Forces in Motion. You know, I was researching his book when I was creating, you know, TTM scratch notation over 2 decades ago. And, you know, his book Forces in Motion, you know, has a lot of cool stuff in it, not only about his notation, but just being a touring artist and stuff. And he was just talking about the fact that if he were to eat good on tour and going out to eat all the time while he was on tour, he would come back from tour with no money. But when he was eating, you know, sparingly, and, you know, eating bad foods and eating junk food and fast food, you know, he'd be able to come back from tour with, you know, more money. So a lot of times, you know, with these food deserts, they program it so that, you know, a bottle of water costs more than a whole, you know, McDonald's hamburger meal, you know. So they want people to look at health and vegetables, like, oh, look at this pepper at the store is $1.50, when, you know what I'm saying, they're feeding that cow hundreds of peppers just to make hundreds of burgers that only cost, $1. So it's like, we have all these kind of like, like an Escher drawing with these kind of impossible conundrum situations where, things don't make sense, where it's like, how is it that the price of something that something eats is more expensive than the thing that eats it? Like a cow, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if a cow is eating thousands of pounds of salad, why is the salad more expensive than the hamburger, right? Shouldn't it be thousands of times cheaper than the hamburger, right? If the cows, you know what I'm saying? But that's the kind of world we live in. And a lot of people say this whole COVID thing and all these world wars is kind of like a correction of that. If you think about, if you make a system that doesn't make sense, and somebody eventually comes and checks the math behind it, and then it's like, wait, why is this grass more expensive than the why is this stuff more expensive than the cows that are eating it? Why is this burger only $1 and this bottle of water not expensive? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, these food deserts are really plaguing our community. Food deserts might be definitely killing more people than the gangs, So, food is a big issue that, I'm always talking about, preaching about, lecturing about, and, people don't like to hear it when you start talking vegan stuff. Vegans we're demonized, you know what I'm saying? People look at us like we're just some like, crazy people or whatever. But, if you look at Dick Gregory, for example, who's an early vegan, he outlived his doctors, you know what I'm saying? And as an artist, part of being a good artist, I was telling Chelsea Reject, part of being a good artist is just being able to last, not only being able to last that decade or 2 decades, being able to last, mad decades. Like, Dali was, in his 80s still, painting and stuff like that. But, if you look at the older generations, like my great-grandmother, she lived to, I have a great-grandmother that lived to 100, one that lived to like 99, right? 2 great-grandmothers, but then the next generation, their daughters didn't live as long as them. And it's like, why is that? People that are like coming straight out of World War I and whatnot, and the turn of the beginning of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century, right after Reconstruction, why is it those people are living longer than, the integration people? The people that lived through integration is because with integration, that's when they started bringing in poisons. It's like they started creating a parasitic relationship with the black community where, these corporations, they poison us. Like, I'm talking about poison through acidity. I'm talking about acidic poisoning, like inflammation. They feed us all these foods that cause inflammation, and then they feed us the Pepto-Bismol. Like, I don't even own Pepto-Bismol. I don't need Pepto-Bismol. You know what I'm saying? I don't have Pepto-Bismol. I don't have a lot of things that, average meat eaters have. I don't, get those, crazy stomach problems and things like that because, I'm not saying worms can't be in, vegetables or whatever, but usually if there's some type of outbreak in vegetables, it's because of contamination with meat. They'll be like, oh, look, this romaine lettuce is bad. If you look, there's been all these romaine lettuce scares over the past couple of years, and that's because of meat contamination. It's not because something in the romaine lettuce makes people sick, But, so these corporations, they'll own, it's like, should Nabisco be able to have shares in a healthcare provider, right? Should Nabisco be able to have shares in, in companies that are, the solution to the illnesses that they're creating? And obviously they shouldn't. But in this world that we live in, it's still legal for a company to create a problem and then sell you the cure. And I'm not talking about the jab stuff, because obviously that's, the same thing, but I'm talking about just regular food eating. You know what I'm saying? All the food that they're selling at the grocery store is generally going to lead to sickness. Like, for me to find cereal that's alkaline cereal is really, really hard. There's only like 2 companies. Like, there's a Kamut, Kamut's alkaline. There's this Puff Kamut cereal. And then there's this one, Nature's Path Ancient Grain cereal that's, mostly spelt in ancient grains. But, they cut it with all different types of stuff. They're always trying to, save money because the turnkey system is just kind of pushing acidity on people, because they know that the second they make that grocery store 20% more alkaline or whatever, people are going to be less sick. And then Pfizer and, all these corporations, Johnson & Johnson, all these people that are making remedies for ailments, the food companies are causing these ailments, and they know it. But they try to act like, just like cigarettes. It's like we knew cigarettes were causing cancer, and it took mad legal battles for decades and decades and decades to be able to come to the conclusion that obviously it's bad. And with food, it's a lot more confounded because it's a lot harder to do studies on it, But they've proven it. They prove processed food, hot dogs, all that stuff, is causing problems in people, Even with the rates of autism and things like that, there's a lot of correlation with that, and ADD and gut bacteria. I'm not for, I think, the idea of fecal transplants are kind of crazy. And even eating, somebody else's own fecalis bacteria in a probiotic. But I do agree that probiotics, your own gut bacteria affects your mental health. If you're, a lot of times a kid might be having stomach issues, and then they'll be like, oh, that's ADD. But it's like, no, the kids at school just giving them milk after gym when they're thirsty. I remember being mad thirsty once, and then giving us some milks, So it's like you got a kid with the bubbly stomach. They might have problems paying attention in class, and they might act out on that. And then it's like, oh, okay, now they got a bubbly stomach, so let's do what the top cast says and give that kid some speed, some Ritalin. So they'll give the kid some Ritalin. Now they got a bubbly stomach because they're black and they're not supposed to be drinking milk. You know what I'm saying? Most Europeans can still, digest milk into their adulthood, but black folks can't, Most black people are lactose intolerant. Most humans are lactose intolerant. I believe 80% of humans are lactose intolerant. And even the word lactose intolerant is a crazy word, because if 80% of humans are lactose intolerant, then that means that humans are naturally lactose intolerant, which means that milk's not for humans. You know what I'm saying? Cow's milk is not for humans. If the majority of people, if it's a poison to most of the people, so it's crazy like that. So, it's almost like micro poisons that are happening, because like I was saying before, with the rice having arsenic and the cassava having cyanide, if you look at the Latin name of cassava, it has like cyanitis in it, It literally has cyanide in it. And most people say, oh, it's just a little poison, it's not going to hurt you. Just like a shot or something. Say, oh, it's just a little bit, it's not going to hurt you, But it's like, poison is poison. And you should never be taking in cyanide or arsenic, That's why they say, I think basmati has the least amount of arsenic as all the rices. But, on the Sebi diet, I've tried to stay on, the black rices, wild rices, nuts, the alkaline grains like I was saying before, spelt, rye, kamut, even the Ethiopian food, the injera, is made out of teff. The injera bread is made out of teff, but if you go to most Ethiopian spot, teff will be like $9 for a pound of it. I mean, $9. It'll be like $9.99 for like, one thing of it. Like, I don't know if that's a pound or maybe it's like 8 ounces or something, but I think it's like $10 for 12 ounces. So most Ethiopian spots, if you go to an Ethiopian restaurant, they're going to be selling you teff mixed with wheat. It might just be pure wheat in the teff. Maybe they'll add a little bit in so that the bread's a little bit softer. But yeah, teff has a whole nother flavor and taste. And so it's just a big hustle where the grocery stores are creating all these elements. Because if you just try to be like a normal person and you're black, everybody, the majority of the black community in America is overweight, and it's epidemic. And a lot of people, they were eating the same things that they always were. But notice that, if you're growing up drinking milk in the 1950s versus drinking milk in, 2020, it's a totally different substance. Totally different substance, totally different, chemicals inside of it, totally affecting everybody, So, I would urge everybody to, research everything you eat. Go to Wikipedia and bring your cell phone into the grocery store and bring up Wikipedia and research the back of stuff. Research what these things do, because they, with cassava flour, they have to recall that every now and then because people die from cassava flour cyanide overdoses. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, definitely check all that stuff out. All right. Peace.